I am MESSA's health promotion consultant. As you see, we have just started recording, but I'm glad I had an opportunity to see your face. If you don't want to be on this recording, you can turn off your camera. Today we are talking about going back to school. Many of our school districts are preparing to start up the 2020 fall school year. For some school districts, it is an exciting time. For some, it is terrifying and scary, and it is engaging a lot of different emotions. Well, I wanted to try to help some of our members prepare for the school year. Especially our members that have been operating worksite wellness programs, and those members that would like to start operating a worksite wellness programs. Some of you may be aware that Governor Whitmer created a roadmap to opening schools, and she gave her and her committee provided some recommendations on different areas as it pertains to a healthy workplace and a healthy operation or school function. And we've reviewed that, and we think MESSA has a lot of resources to help everyone. And I wanted to share some of those resources today. And also I have with me in this space a group of social workers that we have worked with in the past, Grand Rapids Public School social workers. And I'm going to introduce them after I go through some of the MESSA wellness resources. I also have the MESSA field rep here with me, and I'm going to have her just share some information on some of our wellness resources before we leave this space. But first, so real quick to go over, we're going to talk about some wellness campaigns, some MESSA wellness resources, and then we're going to hear from Grand Rapids Public School social workers. So they're not only experts in the field of social work, dealing with mental wellness and social wellness, but also they have experience in starting a worksite wellness program and running a successful worksite wellness program there at Grand Rapids Public Schools. Now, as far as some of the things to address for your worksite campaigns, what we promote at MESSA are the concepts of mindfulness, movement, and nutrition. You've heard me say it all year long. I'll be talking about it in the future as well, because when you address mindfulness, when you address movement, when you address nutrition, you unpack those things and you're able to address mental wellness, physical wellness, and social wellness. And I just wanted to share some of the campaigns we've done in the past as it pertains to mindfulness. And you guys are aware, we've talked about it all year, of what mindfulness is. Just being able to be in the present. And we know based on research, practicing mindfulness can help build resiliency against excess stress. It can help with relationships socially. It can help our educators and our school employees deal with stress. And I've just listed a couple of things that are activities you can do as a worksite wellness program with your colleagues that helps teach mindfulness skills. Meditation lunch and learns, gratitude journals, appreciation walls. And I've said this in the past, anytime you practice gratitude, anytime you engage in being thankful, you are practicing mindfulness. No, you're not focusing on the present perhaps, but you are taking past events and you are reframing them, and you are engaging in gratitude. And what that does is it changes your emotion for the present. So we consider that a mindfulness practice. Engaging in mindfulness breaks. That's something you can do as a part of a worksite wellness program. Create mindfulness breaks. It might be a message you send out on a newsletter. It might be a reminder via email of doing something that pertains to mindfulness. And I'm going through this stuff quickly because I want to have enough time for our social workers to talk about what they're doing. It's such great information. And you see there also, I have a 30-day resilience challenge. That's another type of activity you can do with your colleagues. And you can reach out to me for more details on that. When dealing with movement, some challenges you can do. Step and walking challenges. We've done that virtually online. You can also do that by just having people report their steps. We know that movement is important. Movement helps increase those hormones and neurotransmitters that help us feel more joyful, that put us in a positive, pleasant mood. There's research that supports how movement and exercise directly relates to mental wellness. When we move more, we feel better. There's studies out that supports exercise, certain types of exercise that can be as effective as some types of antidepressant medications. So we really press or encourage people to engage in movement. And we know now with our new norm, a lot of us are at home, working at home, and we don't have the activity we had when we were in the office or at school. But there are still things you can do from a virtual perspective, engaging and encouraging your folks to engage in movement. And I've listed a couple there. And nutrition, another focus. When you are eating well, it puts you in a good mood. There's a direct correlation between healthy eating and mental wellness, heightened mental wellness. And believe it or not, there's a direct correlation between healthy eating and good social wellness, connecting with people in a healthy way. So these are a list of different campaigns and activities and challenges you can do with your colleagues at work to help promote healthy eating. Just educating people on reading nutrition labels, a well-tipped Wednesday that encourages healthy eating, perhaps a specific vegetable or vegetables in general, a challenge like a salad jar challenge. Again, that's showing people different ways they can engage in healthy eating in a fun way. And these still can be done at a distance and working virtually. Some different types of platforms or ways that you can deliver your campaigns through, and these all again can be done virtually, but association meetings, webinars, social media is a great place to gather with, definitely with those individuals that use social media, creating groups and using that as a platform to disseminate health information and to operate activities has been successful in the past for a lot of my groups. Lunch and learns, you know, I plan on doing lunch and learns. I'm known for doing lunch and learns, but it used to be via brick and mortar, but I still plan on doing lunch and learns. And my plan is to meet with people virtually and deliver lunch, have lunch delivered. So it's still possible. Professional development days and staff meetings, though they are virtual, there are still opportunities to deliver health and wellness information. Our mission has not ended just because the way we are working is changing. We still can get the information out. We just have to optimize the vehicle we have now. And right now it's virtual for a lot of us. And also, let me remind you about some of our additional resources, our MESSA benefits, our medical case management, our case management programs, Omada, Livongo, our nurse line, and our Blue Cross online visits. Medical case management and our disease management programs are for our members that are challenged with chronic diseases for the case management, asthma, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. And the medical case management is for our members that are suffering from catastrophic conditions where we provide them a case manager. Those can be incorporated in your Worksite Wellness program to help our members. there's information on our website that you can download and share that with your members, share that with your colleagues. Because if they need help, MESSA's here to help. We have a lot of wellness, health and wellness resources that are definitely have a place. For example, OMADA, I've been telling people, especially during this executive order where we're not able to be as active and social as we would like to be, there's a lot of people that find themselves eating more and exercising less, and the inches are increasing and the scale is increasing. Well, what happens when we are stressed, sedentary, and eating more, we gain weight, and that puts us at risk for diabetes. We want to prevent that. We want to help people prevent developing diabetes. Our program, OMADA, is for that reason. We provide a health coach who provides education on stress, education on eating healthy, and education on exercise to help coach you to goals to help mitigate your risk for diabetes. So that is a great program to share with your colleagues. And also remember, I am the MESSA Health Promotion Consultant. That's what I do. I go out and I help employees start worksite wellness programs, and I'm still available to do that. I can work with you virtually. I'd love to set up a meeting with you and your wellness team, or just you as the wellness liaison to help you kind of figure out how you're going to do this in your new working conditions, because it still can be done. I want you to be encouraged. And now I wanted to have our Grand Rapids Public Schools social workers come and share what they've done with MESSA in the past, how they've been successful with worksite wellness, and their plans of how to navigate it, or how they plan to navigate it in the future. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Rhonda, for having us. We are excited to be here to share with you our Grand Rapids Public Schools School Social Workers Wellness Team 2021 Wellness Plan. But before I introduce the team to you, allow me to share a little bit about our history. In the spring of 2013, one of our colleagues suffered a massive stroke, and several other colleagues were out on medical leave. Needless to say, many of us were concerned about the work-related stress we were all experiencing. During the summer of 2013, I received the MESSA magazine and noticed an article promoting the Worksite Wellness Conference, and immediately reached out to MESSA. I was put in contact with Mona, who was then Rhonda's colleague at the time, assigned to West Michigan. We were registered for the conference and brought the idea to our immediate supervisor, who supported our vision. And now, 7 years later, we consist of 6 of the founding members and 2 new members, who are all fully committed to providing our colleagues with education about how to maintain their mental, emotional, and physical health. So now let's meet the team. To the left, we have Angelon. I'm Glenda in the center. Next to me is Diane, then Molly, Kelly, Elmira, Noemi, and Yvette. So typically every fall after the Worksite Wellness Conference, we would collaborate to develop our wellness goal. So for example, we participated in making a video the first year, and we got all of our colleagues together and we made a happy video. The years after, we've done healthy eating. We learned to make brownies out of black beans. We've done the salad challenge Rhonda talked about, squat challenges, walking challenges. Our most recent challenge this past school year, we did the Bianca challenge, resilience challenge, the 30-day resiliency challenge, and good form walking and posture challenge. We divided up into teams and we did those challenges. Our school social workers love being involved. And so this year, with all that's going on in our world, we've decided to reach out to all of our staff. So we wanted to equip our colleagues with strategies to better support themselves, everyone in GRPS district. So within the first month, we're hoping to provide them with some of the strategies we'll be sharing here with you today. When we shared our idea with Rhonda, she noted that our plan aligned nicely with the mental and social emotional health guidelines of the Michigan Safe Schools 2021 Return to School Roadmap. We've included the link in our reference page for you, but this slide summarizes the 8 key resiliency strategies highlighted in the state's plan, such as recognizing and validating grief, noticing and managing your worry thoughts, paying attention to joy, and becoming active, to name a few. Now I will turn it over to Noemi, who's going to review our team's mission statement and our wellness goal.
Thank you, Glenda. Good afternoon, everyone. What I'd like to share with you is what we came up with on our first time meeting after we decided, yes, we're going to do a wellness team. So what has been kept through the years is that our mission is to promote mental, emotional, and physical health by providing fun facts and educational information on health, engaging in stress-relieving activities, and providing outlets for our colleagues to experience support to each other, to strengthen our capacity to help our colleagues and students and families. We first began with the colleagues, now we're expanding. And this leads us to our 2021 goal. So for this year, our goal is to focus on the mental, emotional, and physical self-care by providing information on how to recognize and respond to grief and trauma, and to communicate the language of healing to ourselves, our colleagues, students, and families that are in our care. And this was brought about with the trauma that we've been experiencing, the COVID-19, the news on media, and we noticed that we all need something to look forward to take care of ourselves. So we are working on, by September 30th, 2020, by September, a GRPS School Social Workers Wellness newsletter will be shared with every building administrator in our district, who then will provide it to the staff. Okay, with our goal, we have 3 objectives. Our first objective is mental wellness, which is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes their own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, and can work productively, as well as be able to make a contribution to our community. Our second objective is emotional wellness, which inspires self-care, relaxation, stress reduction, and the development of inner strength. Being attentive to both positive and negative feelings and being able to understand how to handle these emotions are important. Emotional wellness includes the ability to learn and grow from our experiences. The third objective is physical wellness. And again, this is something that we've developed over the years. It's not all from our first year. Our third objective, physical wellness promotes proper care of our bodies for optimal health and functioning. Overall, physical wellness encourages the balance of physical activity, nutrition, and mental well-being to keep our bodies in top condition. And each year we do, or at least this year, we're going to do some quarterly challenges. And one of my colleagues will explain those challenges later. Thank you. And now we will have Molly, who will talk about ACEs.
Thank you, Noemi. Thank you everyone for being here. We wanted to take some time to just talk about trauma because trauma has such a large impact on our students and ourselves and our colleagues. Many of us may have heard of ACEs or adverse childhood experiences. There are 10 different ones that can happen. They include abuse, neglect, and different forms of household dysfunction, such as incarceration, mental illness, substance abuse. And we just want to keep in mind that many of our students, the parents we're working with, our colleagues, ourselves, we may have experienced some of those in our childhood and other trauma over the course of this pandemic and over the course of our lives due to systemic racism and many other factors. And that when you look at that ACEs study, it really does show very long-term impacts. And so we just want to try and deal with that trauma of our students and ourselves in order to get our best physical, mental, and emotional wellness. And trauma has a very significant impact. Children exposed to trauma and violence and abuse and neglect are developmentally about half of their chronological age. And those children can look really similar to those with sensory disorders, ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, and social skills difficulties. And so sometimes when we see different behaviors in our students, we may not recognize that it could be related to trauma, and to just try and have that lens of recognizing that and treating the behaviors maybe a little bit differently. Trauma has very long-term effects, and so we just want to really do our best to recognize that and do what we can. And one of the biggest things that is protection against being overwhelmed by trauma is social support. And so finding that for ourselves and then finding that for our students. One trusted adult makes a huge difference in the life of a child. And for a student who may not have that at home, they can find it at school. It could be a teacher, a nurse, a social worker. It could be the bus driver, a custodian. It could be the principal, lunch woman or man. And so we just want to recognize the impact that we really can have on our students. So a few strategies that we can use with ourselves and our colleagues and our students are to really discuss and explore our feelings. So with students, that might look like morning circles, which could be done virtually, just talking about how you're feeling, how things are going. But with ourselves or our colleagues, that could include journaling or going to therapy, practicing mindfulness. There's a couple apps listed there that are really helpful for that. We also want to recognize the need for movement and sensory breaks, especially when we're doing virtual learning. In some situations, we don't get up as much. We're sitting in front of a computer screen. That's hard on our eyes, that's hard on our bodies, it's hard on our students. And so building in some of those breaks for ourselves and our students. And we want to give students a safe space to talk about current events. There is so much going on in the world right now. We've got protests, we've got police brutality, trauma, we've got a pandemic. There's just so much going on that's having an impact on all of us. And so we want to take the time to really educate ourselves on that and help ourselves and help our students to deal with that and process that. And one way to do that is to use more diverse books and lessons. Teaching Tolerance has some good resources for teachers, but there's lots of good books out there if you just want to work on educating yourself more about trauma or any of these other things that are going on in our world. And we just want to, really the biggest thing is take care of ourselves, because we know we can't help others if we are not healthy ourselves. So we want to set boundaries. It's hard when we start to work from home and trying to create that boundary of like, when do I turn off the computer? When can I just be focused on myself? When can I be focused on my family? So we want to make sure we're practicing self-care and using boundaries. And if you want to learn more about trauma, there's a few resources listed here. Star Commonwealth has some really good online trainings. I know some of them were free during COVID, so I'm not sure if they still are, but you could look into those. Those are really helpful. The National Child Traumatic Stress Network and CASEL also have really good resources related to trauma and just social emotional learning in general. And now I'm going to hand it over to Glenda, who's going to talk to us more about grief.
Thanks, Molly. So take a few seconds and look at these images. I would imagine that each one of us has experienced grief at some point in our life. I would even venture to say that many of us may have experienced some level of grief during the past few months. Some of our colleagues may be experiencing with grief from a loss of a loved one, maybe a spouse lost their job, perhaps they're simply grieving life as they once knew it. Or maybe they're grieving the current racial tensions in our nations. These images represent what Kübler-Ross identified in 1969 as the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, also known as DABA. It is important to note that these stages are not linear. Some individuals who experience grief may not experience any of these stages at all, while others may experience only 2 or 3 of them. The next slide describes some of the behaviors an individual who is grieving may display during each phase. The first 2 stages, denial and anger, fall in what Kübler-Ross calls the information and communication subcategory. Some of the behaviors one may exhibit in the denial stage is avoidance, confusion, shock, or fear. Here the person is not living in actual reality, but preferable reality. Denial helps us to cope and survive the grief event. During the anger stage, we may see the person exhibiting frustration, irritation, and anxiety. The person who is grieving may ask, "Why me?" or make statements such as, "Life is just not fair." The next stage is bargaining, which falls in the emotional support subgroup. The individual experiencing grief may struggle to find meaning and may reach out to others for support to tell their story. They may express guilt by making statements such as, "If only I had done this," or "What if I'd done that?" And then the final subgroup is guidance and direction. This includes the last 2 stages, depression and acceptance. Signs or behaviors of depression that a person who is grieving may display includes helplessness, feeling overwhelmed, hostility, withdrawing, or possibly isolating themselves. Often depression is described as anger turned inward. So during this stage, the person may appear numb or as if they're in a fog. They may make comments such as, "What's the point?" Please note that these behaviors are cries for guidance and direction, and you are encouraged to offer support by helping the person who is grieving to get connected with a mental health professional and/or a grief support group. Acceptance is the final stage. The person experiencing grief is now re-entering reality. They are in a period of adjusting and readjusting. They're exploring options, creating new plans, and moving on. They are growing and evolving into their new reality. They may make comments such as, "My good days outnumber the bad days." So now let's look at some helpful tips for talking with the person who may be grieving. I want to encourage you to avoid saying, at least he's no longer in pain. This may minimize their experience. Avoid trying to cheer up those who are grieving. Instead, be with them in that moment and say things like, what have you been thinking about since your father died? Next, avoid statements such as, I lost both my parents when I was your age. Comparison statements may make the person feel that their loss is not profound. Focus on the grieving person. Instead, maybe say, tell me more about what this has been like for you. And finally, please avoid saying, you must be incredibly angry. It is not helpful to tell people how they're feeling. It is better to ask. Most people have strong feelings when something like this happens to them. What has this been like for you is a better response. So let's remember, there's no rule book, no time frame, and no judgment. Grief is as an individual as a fingerprint. Do what is right for your soul. Next slide has a couple of resources for you that's in our community for grief and loss. Ellie's Place is in Mid-Michigan and West Michigan. They offer support for children. Gilda's Club of Grand Rapids is a great resource. And throughout the state of Michigan, Hospice of Michigan offer grief support services for children, adults, and everyone across the spectrum. So now please welcome Angela, who will talk to you about building resilience.
Thank you, Glenda. So here we will be identifying some healing talking points so that we can build resilience. And resilience is so important so we can keep moving during this time when everything seems to have changed. We've been feeling grief, that trauma has been brought back up for us. Another word for it is we've been triggered. So I've identified 3 questions to ask yourself when you're in a moment, when you feel like you've been triggered, when those different hurts and pains have been brought up. And these are the questions to ask yourself to kind of keep yourself in the present moment. The first question is, what past pain has been triggered for me right now? And this is very important for us to ask ourselves because we tend to bury past experiences and hope that they are staying in the past and we've gotten over them, we ignore them. But it's easy to be triggered, especially right now with everything that's been going on. And when that happens, we tend to lash out, or we tend to project or think that what has triggered us is what is causing us pain, but really it's something that we buried and we never dealt with. And so not dealing with your past pain doesn't allow you to heal. And we need that healing in order to be resilient and to move forward. The second question to ask yourself is, do I need a break? Am I needing to step away from this situation right now? Do I need a moment? Maybe that means to go in another room, or maybe to stop talking, or maybe to turn off something, or maybe to excuse yourself so that you can kind of regroup and just gather yourself and gather your thoughts and really try to get back in the moment so that you're not going back to your past hurt. And the third question is, what is this experience needing me to do or say right now? So again, we're trying to stay in the moment. This present experience, whatever has triggered you, it may not be the actual pain or hurt that you're feeling. It may be something that is just triggering you to really kind of remind you that you need to keep healing. And it's okay to keep healing. It's okay that you have been reminded of these things, because they're things that you need to address. And that's the only way you're going to end up being resilient, and that you're going to move forward and grow past what you're going through right now. So you may need to either listen, you may need to stop talking, you may need to be alone, you may need to support someone else who is going through a hard time, maybe support someone who is oppressed. So it's important for you to really ask yourself these 3 questions so you can stay in the present moment and you can move forward to build resilience. The quote by Pema Chodron is, "Nothing ever goes away until it has taught us what we need to know." So we're going to hear next from Diane, and she's going to help us identify steps you can take to continue in your healing process.
Diane, you're on mute still.
Sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear me now. I am going to be sharing some steps that you can take to heal. First of all, we want to start with disputing overly negative thoughts. Okay, overly negative thoughts. Let's talk a little bit about those irrational thoughts that we may have been experiencing during this time versus those rational thinking. Rational thinking is thinking that is consistent with facts, whereas irrational thinking is thinking that is inconsistent with known facts. So we want to get rid of those irrational thoughts by, 1, thinking of a time in which you had something really burning, something that was really pressing on you, and you engaged in a lot of negative thinking. Think of a time when you refuted those negative thoughts, and what was the outcome? What are some of those life examples that you have used in the past, or tools that you have used in the past to dispute those overly negative thoughts and pull those out of your toolbox and use them again? I bet when you really think about it, the situation turned out much better than what you anticipated. So remind yourself of what those past successes are and the skills that you use to dispute persistent negative thinking, and reuse those skills. Secondly, write, don't worry. Worry is a feeling of uneasiness or being overly concerned about a situation or a problem. We all worry at some point. We all worry at some time, but excessive worry can cause both our mind and our body to go into overdrive. That excessive worry is when we are constantly focused on what might happen. One of the ways to conquer that excessive worry is writing it down. Write down what is the problem? What is it that you are dealing with? In the process, you will set in motion a process that will eventually solve them. It also gives you a reference to go back to. On this day, I was really worried about this, but it turned out much better than what I thought it would. So when you take those thoughts out of your head, it causes less tension and and avoids health issues of potential excessive worry. So get those thoughts out of your head and onto paper. Lastly, accept it is what it is. And I know many of you have probably heard that over and over, but there are some things that we just can't change. There are certain things we just can't do anything about. And when we find ourselves in those challenging situations, ask yourself, is the situation easily changed, or is it already done and unchangeable? Of course, if it's easily changed, then we'll change it. But many situations, such as many of the things that we are experiencing today, cannot be changed. So what we want to do, we want to start by finding one thing about that difficult situation that you can accept. What is one thing about it that will help me cope better with what I'm going through by accepting at least one thing about the situation that I cannot change? When you do that, it makes coping much easier. Okay, so try it. Just try it and think of a situation that you are maybe going through now or have gone through, and think about, okay, what can I accept about that situation? What can be okay? What can I be okay with? And see how that makes you feel. Now, don't expect these strategies that we're sharing with you, don't expect them to work right away. Success, as with any new thing or trying anything different, it can vary from day to day, even moment to moment at times. But hang in there, things will get better. We also have some references, resources that we would like to share with you. And the first three are some books, Wellness, Self-Care, and Burnout Prevention and Clinical Health Counseling, Elements of Effective Practice. The second one is the little book of Self-Care, 200 Ways to Refresh, Restore, and Rejuvenate. And we all need to refresh, restore, and rejuvenate. Even pre-COVID, we need those 3 hours in our lives. 175 deep questions to get to know yourself. Also, you can text to Restore 741-741. That is the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. It is open 24/7 for mental health services. Also, locally, if you're in the Kent County area, you may contact Network 180, which is also a 24/7 mental health crisis assistance and evaluation. The number is listed there. And also, if you're our neighbors to the east side, in Detroit, you can contact Detroit East Community Mental Health, and that is 313-331-3435. And for our friends nationwide, there's a national mental health hotline, 1-800-950-NANNY. We would encourage you to check out those references and resources. Next, we have Kelly, who will be talking to us about physical wellness.
Thanks, Diane. Hi. I am going to talk a little bit about physical wellness. That is taking actions to keep your body in optimal health, which includes exercise and good nutrition. We have a few suggestions for how to get to that optimal health. Engage in physical activity every day for 30 minutes. Some people break that up into 3 10-minute segments, and it's easier for them. Use stairs instead of the elevator or escalator and walk whenever possible. You might even walk farther away from the store door just to give yourself that little bit extra. Just taking those little steps can really make a difference. Learn to recognize the warning signs when your body feels ill. Get to know your own body and then act on it when you need help. Eat a variety of healthy foods and control your meal portions. And then it's also important to remember that we need a regular sleep schedule and that we need to get between 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. That's when our body can restore itself. That's when our body heals from injuries and gets better from illnesses. So regular sleep is important. It's important to keep your body in good shape through exercise. It's important to know our own metabolism and find a little system that works for us. As I mentioned, it's important to eat a well-balanced diet and to try to stay away from the processed foods and such, and then find a healthy weight for you and then try to stick to it. Put together healthy habits, not only physically, but emotionally, and it all interacts together. Now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about setting your health and wellness goals. The Cleveland Clinic advises us that we can set ourselves up for more success by focusing on our journey rather than our destination. They advise that one way we can do that is to set up SMART goals, to use a SMART goal strategy, which is something many of us are familiar with. The S-M-A-R-T. S being specific. Consider a specific action item when you're setting goals for yourself instead of a vague objective. Instead of just saying, I'm going to need to exercise more, consider something specific, such as I will go for a 20-minute walk 3 times a week. And then you can measure that. You can track your progress in a journal or a calendar. Not only does tracking it keep you in tune with what your actual goal is, but it gives you that sense of progress to see, yep, I did it today. So it can help from that standpoint as well. And we want to set goals that are attainable for us. Start with something you know you can do. Instead of focusing on, I need to lose 30 pounds. Focus on that first 5 pounds. It's more attainable and you'll feel that success sooner. It's also important to think about making our health and wellness goals relevant to us. Align your goals with what your own interests, your own passions and values are. Instead of setting up a goal like, my friend runs, so I'm going to become a runner too. You're less likely to stay with it if you're not really interested in being a runner. Maybe you're more interested in taking a dance class or a Zumba class or taking long walks. So make your goals relevant. And then make your goals time specific. Try to set a goal with a specific endpoint. Then when you reach that point, assess your progress, make adjustments, and then set another short-term goal. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Yvette, and she's going to talk about our challenges.
Thank you, Kelly. This year, we are introducing quarterly challenges, and we're going to call it, our first challenge is our sleep challenge, and it'll be called Get Your Z's. Sleep is as important to our health as eating and drinking. It allows our bodies to repair themselves and our brains to consolidate our memories and process information. Poor sleep is linked to physical problems such as a weakened immune system and mental health problems such as anxiety and depression. We have developed a sleep toolbox. And in this toolbox, we have techniques that we'd like to introduce. One of the techniques is set the mood. To set the mood, dim all lights and use secondary lights in the bathroom and kitchen. Turn down the thermostat and use a fan. The ideal snoozing temperature is 65 degrees. Read or listen to a book. These should be pleasure reads, not work-related materials. Try to avoid reading or listening to a book in bed. Next thing is to mentally prepare for tomorrow. Be sure to end the review with permission to relax. You are in control and ready for the day ahead. The next tool we'll introduce is stretch, meditate, or breathe. Work through a few yoga poses. Focus on your breath or meditate. Try aromatherapy. Using calm and relaxing essential oils like lavender or chamomile can help you fall asleep faster. Take a warm bath or shower. The cool down afterwards reduces your body temperatures, which can trigger a tranquil, drowsy feeling. In the picture to the right, you'll see several cups of coffee, indicating how much you'll need to drink based on the hours of sleep that you received the night before. Our second challenge will be our mindfulness challenge. And we will introduce techniques for that as well. Mindfulness is about coming into the right relationship with your body, mind, and soul. It is a mental state achieved by focusing on one's awareness on the present moment, while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations, used as a therapeutic technique. We'll be introducing a 30-day mindfulness challenge. Among those on the calendar, we'll have write down 5 things you are grateful for. Spend some time outside. Tell someone you love them and really mean it. Unfollow people who don't make you feel good. Declutter your house or office. Make a list of things you love about yourselves. Our last challenge of the school year will be our water challenge. We'll call it Drink Up. And the benefits of drinking water It slows the aging process. It slows aging skin, it keeps moisture and renews cells. It helps us with weight loss because water has 0 calories. So it can even be an appetite suppressor. It can save you money because water is free when you use your own water bottle. It makes your bones stronger, rebuilds shock absorber cartilage. Joints can move more smoothly. Water also boosts your metabolism. Drinking 16 ounces in the morning can raise your metabolic rate by 24%. It facilitates signaling a pathway to, signaling a pathway and nutrient delivery to the brain. It removes toxins and inflammatory markers, provides energy sources for the brain, and therapy improves brain function. When you are hungry, you should drink. Use a straw to allow you to drink more. You're drinking now. Reward yourself when you drink so much water and allow yourself to have other drinks. We will also introduce a summer challenge, which will be a self-selected challenge. And next up, we will hear from Noemi again with a mindfulness exercise. Thank you.
I think Rhonda's going to take over now in the interest of time. So thank you all for listening to us so far. I don't know if there was any questions and answers. We've answered one in the chat. If there's any others, we can answer for you. Otherwise, thank you again, Rhonda, for having us, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Glenda. Did we get Sean's question in the chat? Let me see, to make sure everybody, is there any research on teaching remotely versus teaching virtually and how that affects students from a traumatic perspective? Is there anything out there, Molly? I see you addressed it.
I'm not sure about any research. I think the question is whether the teacher is teaching from the classroom virtually still or from their home virtually. And I don't know any research on it, but I think that some students might feel comforted seeing their classroom and their teacher in that normal setting, but at the same time, maybe seeing their teacher at home could give them some sort of comfort, knowing like we're all kind of trapped in our houses right now. It's not just me who's here learning by myself. Even my teacher's not at school. So I think it's kind of got to make that individual decision.
Right. And if it were any research out, it probably would be like, I know China has been doing virtual learning for a while. And it's hard to say for our specific situation, what kind of research, because we're just experiencing it, this type of trauma. So it will be hard to take any other research and apply it to what we're going through right now. But great question. I wonder what's going to come out. It's a lot to research for any scientist right now. It's a lot out there to research. A lot of good reminders for self-care. Wasn't that excellent? Actually, if I were doing a Worksite wellness program, and I'm going to copy the information they share word for word. I love the mindfulness challenge. That was excellent. I love all those challenges. So for anybody in this space, I hope you took notes. I hope you wrote down some of those resources at the end of their session. And actually, we did record it. I'm gonna make sure my editing department can edit this as I speak. But just in case, I'll ask the social workers if I can share their contact information for any questions, and just in case you want to network with a Worksite wellness program that's been successful. I'm excited to see what happens for the school year with them. There were some great tips in there and great recommendations. And yes, I'll check about the PowerPoint for you. If not the PowerPoint, perhaps they can give us some tips or points from the PowerPoint that we can share with you. And like I said, perhaps network with them as a Worksite wellness program. Next, real quick before you leave, I brought Renee Zerna. She's our MESSA field rep, especially for those in that same county and area, but for all our MESSA members. Renee, you were going to tell us about some updated benefit information or remind us of our mental health benefits.
Yeah, so just real quick, some of the free programs that we have really line up nicely with this presentation. So for instance, OMADA is a program that we have for members who take, they take a few, answer a few questions to see if they're eligible, but that focuses on key areas of nutrition, physical activity, stress, and sleep. So it really coincides perfectly with the Grand Rapids social workers presentation. It really focuses on those 4 areas, and it's a year-long program. So if a member is eligible, they can sign up for that, and again, it's free. Another program that we have that's free to our members for those who have already been diagnosed with diabetes, we have the Livongo program, which helps them to manage their disease. And we also have one of our newest programs is the OVIA program. And that one kind of has 3 phases. It's for people who are in the early stages of family planning. So the first part of that would be prior to pregnancy. The second stage of that is during pregnancy. And then the third stage would be after the child is born. And so it's a lot of support services for parents. And again, that is a free program that members can enroll in. Additionally, we have the online doctor. Our online doctor services are expanded so that you can have mental health visits. So you can schedule visits with the same professional and you can do it from your home. So you don't have to leave the house if you're needing some mental health services. And then just to remind you, with respect to those online visits, right now through the end of the year, all online visits, whether they're mental health or for physical issues, those are free through the end of the year. And then we do also have very extensive mental health and substance abuse coverage for members. So, if it gets real serious, there is inpatient care. A lot of those all have to be pre-approved. But any of the mental health services would be covered, as long as they're deemed medically necessary. If you're going to an in-network provider and it's not an online, it's going to be subject to your deductible and any applicable co-insurance. But there are no limitations as far as number of visits, and it's a very robust coverage. So real quick here, we're at 101. Does anyone have any questions regarding those?
I don't see any questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Renee. And you know what I love to do now that I've learned to do it, and we have the social workers here, is closing. I like to open with mindfulness when I have time and close with mindfulness. So I am going to ask, and I believe that was the last part of the presentation, if we can close us out with mindfulness, do you mind? And for those of you that have to leave, go ahead and you can leave us, but if you'd like to stay for this moment of mindfulness, just so we can go back to our spaces and feel refreshed and perhaps kind of cement that information we just learned into our brains, I think mindfulness is helpful for that. And I'm going to mute for that.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be with us. And we will close with a mindfulness exercise. This is a grounding, it's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. It is a technique that goes through the 5 senses, and it reminds you to stay present. It's a calming technique, especially if you're feeling frustrated or stressed, or you're in a situation that you are uncomfortable. Just getting to be present, getting to a calming state. So before we begin, I will quickly go through the steps that this is going to take us through. First, we're going to take a deep breath to begin the activity. We're going to use our 5 senses. We're going to use our sight to look for 5 things around us, and that could include a water bottle. The other sense is the your feeling sense. You'll go through 4 things that you can feel near you. Like I can feel the chair that I'm sitting on. Then we're going to go through the listening, and you listen for 3 sounds. And we're going to go through the smelling, and you can say 2 things that you smell that's near you. And the last one is your sense of tasting, and you will come up with 1 thing that you can taste. This activity, you will keep your eyes open so that you can look and scan. You will use your 5 senses, and you can say out loud what you see, or say it to yourself in your mind. So we're going to begin this activity, and I will walk you through each step. And let me begin with our music. Oh, sorry. Okay, there we begin. Now, as we begin, take a deep breath in and out. Five. Look for 5 things that you can see around you. Say it in your mind or say it out loud. Feel. Think of 4 things that you can feel near you. Say it out loud or to yourself. 3. Listen for 3 sounds. 2. Say 2 things you can smell. Or if you can't think of 2 things, if you can't smell 2 things, think of 2 scents that you like. 1, taste. Say 1 thing you can taste or would like to taste. Take a deep breath in and out for 2 to end this exercise. This is a quick exercise that you can do at any time. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Renee, thank you, Grand Rapids Public School social workers. This was fantastic, fantastic information. I feel even more prepared to do what I do. Thank you for sharing. I'm looking in the chat and the resource slides, they are going to make those available to us. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone that took out their lunchtime, their day to spend with us. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to bring them on this platform again, perhaps, and share updates or additional information. Everybody enjoy your Tuesday. Thank you for coming. Hey, Perry, you're back. How's work going? Good.